This is your opportunity to tell your story to the folks that live around here.
Sure.
We'll just start with your first and last name.
Yeah, my first and last name are Alia Rahman.
So, 8 days ago, you were going where?
Yes, I was on my way to a regular appointment at the Traumatic Brain Injury Center. Awesome place we have here, provided by Hennepin County. I actually just came from there right before I came to see you here. And that parking lot is on a straight line from my house down Park Avenue. Yes.
And so you're driving, and then what happens?
Yeah. I'm driving, and the first thing I actually just see is traffic is stopping, right? And if you've ever been in that situation where you pull onto a block and you're like, oh man, there's traffic up here, and I've already gone past the street, like behind, you can't go anywhere. So I stopped with a couple cars in front of me, and I think most of us sitting there at that time were just trying to understand what was happening. Mm-hmm. It was a good few minutes before I could even move my car up once. And then started to see people running across the two side streets. Mm-hmm. I was primarily concerned with missing the 15-minute late deadline on my appointment, because then I would have to reschedule. And I started to text my my healthcare provider when I heard the whistles. And folks were running between the cars. Initially, community members. That's when I saw someone run next to me, stop and blow a whistle, and then I kind of realized, I see what's happening. Those cars blocking up there are large SUVs. Those must be ICE vehicles. This is what I'm rolling up on here. And so, it was just very chaotic, very loud, multiple people directing traffic, multiple people not directing anything and just kind of walking around. So, yeah, I was mostly like trying to figure out, okay, there's cars going, they're letting some cars go forward, right? That would be dope, because that's where I need to go, to the doctor. I think if you're from here, Park is a main north-south thoroughfare, right? And so it's better if you stay on that.
Yeah, and it's a one-way, so you only got one way to go.
Yeah, it's not super icy, right? So, so I was waiting for that when I got the first set of, move, I will break your effing, they didn't say effing, but I'm saying it here, move, I will break your effing window. And then from that point on, back and forth commands to stop, to move, people pulling on my door, saying they would break my window, and me trying to understand what was really happening there, me trying to wait to actually pull into an intersection, because there wasn't anywhere to go, right? When I first pulled up to it, the side streets were fully blocked. And there are also people running around everywhere, right? I have been taught as a human and as a disabled person, like if things are overwhelming and confusing, just pause for a second, right? I think you all see how that wasn't working for the ICE officers, even after I had actually pulled out of the way of the traffic behind me. So I think we've seen the rest.
You needed to go to that doctor's appointment. That was important for you to get to.
Yes, I have been getting treatment for a brain injury for over a year. And I would like to get back to work someday if I can. So they helped me on that road.
How did you get the injury, if you mind my asking?
Well, I would like to keep that personal health information.
Totally.
Sure.
And so you're going to these appointments to get better.
Yes.
But you have some physical limitations?
Yes. So the primary things that happened to me with my brain injury were I have a bit of halted speech, as you can hear. It comes from word finding difficulties. And on a good day, it's not such a problem, and on a stressful day, it is. I have some balance challenges, which is why I walk with a cane. My legs work, my brain is not the greatest when I have to walk a distance. I can stand on my own, or I can stand by touching my car door, which you've also seen me do in a video trying not to fall. But the cane helps me if I have balance issues while I am walking. The primary thing I deal with, though, is vision challenges close up. So it's not an issue driving.
Were you by yourself in that car?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And so you're getting yelled at from the left, from the right, trying to figure out what's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I am. I think any person would probably have that challenge, especially seeing what we saw when Renee Good was shot. That following the command to drive away while people are that close to you, and by people I mean the ICE officers, who have tried to open your door already, which they were trying to do that, right? To me, that implies you're trying to get in. Or, frankly, the sentence, "I will break your effing window." You know, I'm an autistic person who likes to, not all autistic people brains are like this, but for me, I like to draw threads and connections, and I have yet to find the connection between clearing a traffic jam and saying, "I will break your effing window." It is a threat of violence. It's not an instruction. And my understanding is that no matter what I was doing, an ICE officer shouldn't be meting out punishment. Mm-hmm. But it also indicates they want to be in my car, right? So all of these things are quite confusing, I think, for any person. But I also have, my autism manifests with having an auditory sorting challenge, which is quite common. Not universal, but common. And what it means is that if I'm at a party, the voices on the other side of the room and a voice of someone as close to me as you, who's probably talking to me, dial in at the same priority. Oh. So I look for physical cues, context, conversational threads, and mouths. You can probably see me in that video trying to look at which person's mouth is talking to me, but of course that's not possible because ICE officers cover their face entirely. So you cannot use lips to help you understand who is talking to you. And things sound at a similar volume. At one point, as I had pulled forward, I did try to check my blind spot, and then at that moment heard "get back, go the other way." And I didn't have a way to know who that instruction was for, so yeah, I did the cautious thing and tried to get these folks to calm down and tell me what they actually wanted.
But it didn't calm down. They did break your window, correct?
That is correct. While they were telling me to move, they also smashed the window. They also smashed the window, yes. The first time they had told me that, I rolled down my driver's side window so such an action wouldn't be necessary. I didn't understand it, but, whatever, right? So I put my window down, and then I heard loud banging on all of my car windows, but the glass on the passenger side suddenly smashed across my lap. And from that moment on, I don't remember my feet hitting the ground to walk. I saw at one point a very large knife in front of me, which I now see in the videos was for cutting my seatbelt off. I'm curious why they didn't press the little button since they were in my car, but they did not. And at no point was I told I was under arrest, explained what I was obstructing, or charged.
When you watch the video of what happened to you, what do you see and what do you feel?
I'll be honest, Jana, what happened to me in that video was, of course, very horrific and shouldn't have happened, but it is nothing compared to the horror show I saw inside that detention center. So when I see the video of me, that's who I think about. I'm very privileged. I got to maybe not go back to my house, but back to my neighborhood. I'm not being deported. I'm alive. When I see that video, I think about George Floyd. I am a U.S. citizen. But that doesn't mean I deserve more humane treatment than anyone else. That's what I think of when I see that video. I hear the sound of the word bodies. And one moment, that word is in my head right now, throughout the whole experience of being put in the SUV, processed, detained until I went unconscious, the resounding memory I have of my sound patterns in my head is the word bodies, because that is the word that is exclusively used in my experience to refer to us by the ICE agents. As soon as I entered the SUV, I noticed the driver in the front could not stop laughing. I told him I thought that was disrespectful at a time like this, and he would not stop and radioed in, "We're bringing in a body." After what had just happened to me, frankly, because I was on the ground, face down, handcuffed behind my back, and then carried by my arms through the street in a way that now is impacting my ability to raise my arms up. And when you hear a thing like "we're bringing in a body," and you've had an experience like that, for a split second you wonder if you've died. And then you wonder if you're going to die. And they kept using this. On the outdoor loading dock, they were processing all of us, regardless of citizenship, gender, anything. And of course, this is falling disproportionately on immigrants. But I still want to say, we were all in there, and people were yelling, ICE officers yelling, "Where do I put these folks?" Actually, I don't think I ever heard the word folks. ICE officers yelling, "Where do I put them? They're bringing in bodies 7 and 8 at a time. Is there a separate area for USCs out here?" Which there is not. When they were trying to find an interrogation room for me later, it never happened because they kept looking and people would say, "There's already a body in that one." I know that's not the question you asked me, but it's very hard for me to think of anything without hearing that word and the laughter of the ICE agents.
This is your opportunity to tell your story. You tell it how you want.
When you beg for medical care for over an hour, and your cellmate is putting themselves in danger to bang on the door to try to get you emergency medical care long after you've asked for it, and you know these people call you all bodies, you have no reason to believe you're going to live through that. And I don't believe I deserve better treatment than someone who is not a U.S. citizen. However, the people who held me do think that. And if they did that to me, someone who's pretty light-skinned, someone who is a U.S. citizen, someone who has no warrant out for their arrest.
You seem still very traumatized. Would you say you are?
Yes, I think it's impossible not to be after a thing like that. I also kind of talk like this anyway. I am autistic. Mm-hmm. I am. But I must say, the thing that feels the heaviest to me is that my experience is such a common one. Except for the part where I got out.
Why did they let you out?
I was unconscious. That is why.
Where did they take you?
I opened my eyes at Hennepin County Medical Center's emergency room and was treated like a human being for the first time since 9:50 a.m. that day by that staff. I'm very grateful to them. My discharge paperwork from the ER says I was treated for assault.
When you were going to the doctor's appointment that day and you started to realize there was an ICE operation happening,
Yes.
you did so knowing that just days prior, a woman in the exact same area
Yep.
was killed
Yes.
just 2 streets away.
Yes.
So is there fear going through you at any moment when you're trying to get out of there?
Yes, but it wasn't for myself at that time. Once they had their hands on me, absolutely.
I just have to ask you this last question. It's been 8 days, which boggles my mind because it feels like longer. But in those 8 days, I've seen a pattern.
Yes.
In the last 3, once you start telling your story, this campaign to discredit you.
Oh, yeah.
Saying you're an activist, you weren't You put yourself there for a reason.
Yes.
It's not what it seems.
I mean, I think if people are still asking that question, perhaps they can't be helped. But I also think for the small number of people out there for whom this is feeling distracting, I believe that focusing on my driving and what I was doing there is a massive distraction to what's really happening. And, you know, yes, my LinkedIn is public. My job listings are on LinkedIn publicly for a reason. 2018 and before, I think a little under a decade, I did work for nonpartisan nonprofits, and I'm actually very proud of my values. I'm very proud of my values, which are that human beings deserve equal treatment under the law, and that citizenship is not a reason to treat someone more humanly than someone else. This harassment has been incredible over the last week. My family has had to deal with it. And not a one of us is intimidated by you folks. You are not going to make me back up from my values. The last 3 places I worked were private sector software companies doing nothing related to social justice. Unless you believe writing safer email is a social justice project, but those are not. Yeah.
But to your point, I guess what I see happen to you 8 days ago has absolutely no correlation to whatever job you had 10 years ago.
Yeah,
like they're separate things.
Yes, I think that is an important point, right? Because when I see people writing hit pieces and talking about how I'm an activist, first of all, I support protesters. They're a part of a functioning democracy. Dr. King's birthday was just Monday. And also, I think the question is not actually about fact. I think they're questioning my character and my integrity. And I'm not really very scared of that. Because the facts are pretty clear. Various investigative reporting outlets have asked my attorneys about my birth certificate, about my medical records, and none of them have, encountered things that are contrary to what I'm saying. I was on my way to the doctor.